Hey, what is going on guys, Shrey here from Shrey's Tech Tips, and today I'll be talking about using the last MacBook with ports in 2018. So a little background before I get into the meat and potatoes of this review. I bought this thing in December of 2015 because my Windows laptop was pretty old, and although it wasn't terribly slow, it was slow enough to be annoying. This based on MacBook Pro with 8GB of RAM, a 256GB PCIe NVMe SSD, the Broadwell-based Core i5-5257U, and Intel Iris 6100 graphics. By today's standards of GTX 1070s and laptops, this is measly, but it was enough for what I plan to do with it. That is, until I decide to start producing higher quality YouTube videos. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's see how the design has stood the test of time. One thing to keep in mind is that I installed a shell and screen protector on it to protect it from accidents. The unibody is basically flawless, with one barely noticeable ding on one side of the keyboard. I've dropped it twice from around waist height onto hardwood floors, and I don't see any major damage on it. And yes, this thing is heavy for a 13-inch laptop, but that comes from the aluminum that we have come to know and love in Apple products. There are a few complaints that I have with the design though, with the first one being the plastic hinge. As far as I understand, this is where Apple stored the connectivity antennas, and the new MacBooks have them in a much more discreet location. The second issue is the humongous bezel around the screen. It looks horrible and is a terrible waste of space. My final annoying gripe is the horrible 720p camera. In a $1,000+ laptop, I would have expected more. And even the latest 2018 MacBook Pros don't have a 1080p webcam, which is just stupid. In terms of ports, this is probably the most dongle-less MacBook in recent years. I can use the SD card to transfer photos and videos from my camera, and I can run up to 3 external displays using the 2 Thunderbolt and 1 HDMI ports, though I'm currently using a dual monitor setup. Sometimes I feel that the 2 USB ports are a little less, at least when I want to plug in my wireless mouse, hard drive, and another USB. That's where my monitor comes in handy though, which I've discussed in this video in the iCard. I also love MagSafe, and it saved my laptop from potential destruction a few times. I'm really torn on this feature in the new MacBooks though. It's nice to see that Apple is conforming to a universal standard, but I wish they could still somehow keep that magnetic charging tip. Talking about magnetic charging tips, what about the performance and the battery life, you might ask? Well, in terms of performance, I can tell this is a base model device for what I do. Just so you have some context, I do everything from video and photo editing, to CAD, to software and web design. This is the complete package for my daily needs, and in terms of everyday web browsing, I prefer to use Safari because my battery doesn't drain as quickly as using the infamous battery hog known as Google Chrome. I currently have 440 charging cycles and 5,512 milliamp hours of maximum battery capacity remaining, which is down from this original 6,559 milliamp hours. This loss might seem excessive, and it is, but I was a fool when I bought this laptop and I wouldn't charge it when video editing, which degrades the battery significantly because of the huge amount of drain Premiere causes. Now, overall in normal web browsing, I get around 5 or 6 hours of battery life, which is less than the originally promised 10 hours at its release. But this is probably due to macOS using more battery and the degradation that I have faced. In terms of performance, boot speed has definitely slowed down, but not by much. And in using the device on a normal basis, things aren't too bad. In fact, I've been able to have 25 tabs in Chrome, Visual Studio, and an iOS emulator open without any significant lag or stuttering. This means that Apple has really optimized this thing to its max, and it uses all the available power. That is, unless it throttles. This is the perfect time to talk about throttling on this thing. Now, I haven't measured hard raw numbers, but Apple has definitely chosen quietness over performance. When I'm exporting video in Premiere, this thing is slow. However, if I crank the fan to its max, I see a drop in render times significantly, which is nice to see. The same thing happens in CAD. I run CAD through Bootcamp, and the fans don't kick in that often, which is frustrating because I have to deal with a slower experience overall. And yes, I see all the comments coming about, why didn't you buy a Windows laptop? And in 2018, there are a lot of thin lights that can perform well and are well priced too. But in 2015, there were a few laptops that had such exceptional build quality and endurance than this MacBook Pro. And I think this perfectly sums up my opinions of this device. This is a pretty darn good laptop when it came out. But now in 2018, the sheer amount of quality Windows laptops really show that there's competition on the other side of the fence. And Apple sure has a lot of catching up to do for the average consumer. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. If you didn't, the other button seems to work as well. Anyways, this was Shrey here. Have a great day.